I myself, the producer of this podcast, is not eligible to diagnose anyone with a mental health disorder. This podcast is purely for artists discussing the mental health hurdles they struggle with on a daily basis. Enjoy. Dealing with negative body image in the film world. Take the film world out of it, and I think a lot of people deal with it on a daily basis. I know a handful of people myself who possibly have eating disorders and have severe body issues and body dysmorphia, and it's no joke. Well, today I have two special guests, Damian Gaeta and Jennifer Kennedy. Damian I've met a handful of times through Andrew Froning, who was a guest on here when we talked about imposter syndrome. Damian and I worked together on one improv skit. I have followed his work through Andrew's work, and I think he's a very talented person. And he decided he wanted to hop along on this episode with Jennifer Kennedy. Dr. Jennifer Kennedy is a licensed psychologist. She currently works in a group private practice, Stress and Anxiety Services of New Jersey, where she specializes in anxiety and mood disorders. She received her doctorate in psychology from Florida Institute of Technology and has been licensed in New Jersey since 2015. Jennifer helps individuals struggling with body dysmorphic disorder, a disorder which affects the way a person feels and thinks about their body image. So you know I had to bring her on for this episode. She also works heavily with anxiety disorders, such as social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, all of which may affect actors and actresses auditioning and performing in different roles. Although Jennifer is not an actress herself, she does have multiple friends in the acting community, which of one being Damian Gaeta. As stated before, I met Damian through Andrew. Damian is an actor and writer of local stage and screen from Burlington, New Jersey. He began acting in high school and continued throughout college. He attended Mercer County Community College, where he earned an associate's degree and met many of the actors, writers, directors, and other various contacts he still works with today. So let's hop right in and talk with Jennifer and Damian about how dealing with a negative body image in the film world can affect you. We hope you enjoy. Hey guys, what's going on? This episode is I think is a personally special one because we have someone here who is a licensed psychologist, and forever I've been trying to find someone to do this for this podcast because it's only been like, hey actors, let's talk about why we're why we're X, Y, and Z, something like that. But when Damian here, he reached out to me saying, hey, my girlfriend Jennifer is a licensed psychologist. I'm an artist, so this sounds right up our alley. So first of all, I want to say thank you guys for doing this today, and just go ahead and introduce yourselves for everyone.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and I'm a licensed psychologist. So I have my doctorate in psychology. I work currently in private practice. I see a lot of people with anxiety and mood disorders. So social anxiety, panic disorder, the whole gamut, and also things like depression. People struggling with that as well. So I also see something I think we'll talk a little bit about more later, which is body dysmorphic disorder, which might be really relevant to this topic.
Yeah. Do you, and how many, this might be a weird question, but how many artists do you come across? Would you happen to know their profession? What's the ratio, or is it more so you just get a mixture of a lot of, I guess, careers, people with different careers or anything like that?
I think it's generally, from what I see, there's a big mix. So just all sorts of careers. I've also seen, I think something that sticks out are people who are into the arts. So this is just all kinds of arts.
Okay.
So
yeah, not just acting or
exactly.
directing. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be. I know I'm more so talking to filmmakers for this because that's just my wheelhouse and who I know. But there are some artists, different artists, where painters and sculptures and photographers and of that nature. So so you're dealing with a lot of people who are just in general, and you just see not just film, just in the arts.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah. And you, sir?
Damian, and I met Chris a couple years ago. We worked on a project together.
Yeah.
And then when he sent out this email, I guess, or this
Facebook post,
this cry for help saying, "Hey, we're doing a podcast," and he invited me to speak on it, and that's when I told him about. I was like, my girlfriend is right up her alley. She knows all this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great to have, like I said, have someone who specializes in the topic of, I know mental health is such a broad
Sure, yeah.
I guess umbrella you could say, but like specifically, the topic we were talking about today is dealing with a negative body image. You know, I said in the film world, but it could also be, you know, any type of art, modeling, things of that nature. And you said, you know, you just said, Jen, that you deal with body dysmorphia, right? So can you talk a little bit about like what, for the people who may not know out there, like, you know, what body dysmorphia is, you know, what are some effects? Because I don't want to speak for Damian. For me, sometimes it's like I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh man, like there's no way, like this is a leading man's body. I know it sounds stupid, like it might sound silly or whatever, but like I'm like, leading men don't really look like me, you know. So
it shouldn't, but it does and it doesn't, you know.
Yeah.
Like I agree with you fully. Like I look at myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna get the Brad Pitt roles. You know? I'm not gonna get the handsome guy roles. I'm gonna get the funny sidekick guy or the
because we just talked about off air, like you know, you and I both love comedy, and I feel like comedy is always associated with, like, you know, you look like a Danny McBride or Jonah Hill.
I was just thinking Jonah Hill. Yeah,
they're on the bigger side, and like, you know, and then even Jonah Hill loses weight, they make fun of him, saying that he's just like on drugs because his weight fluctuates. So it's like, so what have you done, Jennifer? Like, what have you worked with, like body dysmorphia? Like, if you could just give a a definition of what it is and like why people like have it, you know, like what are some, I guess, what triggers people to feel that way about themselves?
Sure, yeah. So I think a lot of us have body image concerns. I think that's pretty ubiquitous just in American culture. So body dysmorphia is a little bit different because it's a disorder, so it has kind of a constellation of symptoms that go along with it. So not to say that people can't have body image concerns that really upset them and kind of take over a big portion of their life, but body dysmorphia kind of goes into the realm of like a disorder that really takes over somebody's life and makes it tough for them to function, you know, socially or academically or just in their career. So a lot of different areas sort of fall to the wayside. The body dysmorphic disorder it's very big, so I'm like, okay, how do I define it in a few sentences?
Take all the 7 years of college and shrink it down into one sentence.
Yes, that's
yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I see with it is this obsession with the way that they look, and that can take a lot of different forms. So it could be weight and how their body looks in general. And so they could look at maybe like a specific part of their body, so their stomach or maybe like their nose, and they could look at that and see, okay, this doesn't look right to me. And sometimes there's a little bit of truth to what they're seeing, so maybe sometimes their nose is a little bit larger. But after really examining that over and over again, it becomes typically very distorted. So they're looking at it and they're seeing something different from what you or I would see when we look at them. And so they might make a comment about their nose and be like, oh, yeah, your nose is fine. And they're like, no, it isn't. Do you see this? And maybe we'd be able to see something there, but it wouldn't be what they see. So it's a kind of a preoccupation with some part of their body. And that leads to a lot of repetitive behaviors. And so this might be anytime they go past a reflective surface, they're checking to see what it looks like.
So it becomes obsessive almost.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming having your phone on you where there's a camera accessible isn't really that easy. Yeah. I'm assuming, because you can check yourself whenever. Like you really could just pop the selfie up and become more obsessed rather than I'm going to leave the house. There's not that many mirrors out in the world, you know, out in the world. Yeah. But no, with a phone, you can, you know, I think it's easy for you to become more obsessed on how you look personally.
Exactly. And, you know, I think a lot of us kind of take pictures of ourselves and we're like, oh, how do I look today? And that's common. And this would be, takes it a step further, a couple of steps further, where it's really, I know all the reflective surfaces at work, and every time I walk past it, I'm going to look, or sometimes there's actually avoidance. And so I don't feel great right now. So I'm actually going to avoid that at all costs. And so it really is this very, I think obsessive is a good word for it, is it takes over. And a lot of those checking behaviors or avoidance behaviors take over the day. And so instead of, you know, coming home and just kind of hanging out with your significant other and talking for a little bit, you're like, okay, I've got to go up to the bathroom. I've got to check a little bit more. And so it starts to really sort of chip away at all the things that that person would normally do that they would enjoy. And I think that's the difference between maybe something where, you know, somebody has legitimate painful body image concerns, and then you get into the realm of something like body dysmorphia, which is kind of that's when we would call it a disorder, and that's when I think therapy is really warranted. So,
and then would you say like would you correlate, I guess, body dysmorphia and an eating disorder as well, or not really? Like,
not
or
always.
It depends on the type of. Yeah, it depends on I guess someone is obsessing. Like, if they're obsessing about their weight, maybe then that could
might as well with food. But if it's a scar on their face,
yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, or like you said, like your nose, your nose, or like the way your eyes. I always like, when I take a picture, my eye seems a little bit bigger than the other. But then I'll tell that to my wife, and she's like, "You're absolutely crazy. Like, you are nuts." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right." Like there's certain things I've become I guess little things I become obsessed with that. Like in the grand scheme of things, I feel like people really don't pay attention. Like people aren't. If I pass you guys on the street, I don't think I'm dissecting like every little thing about you. Like we just pass by people so many people a day. It's like, but that's what happens. It becomes like a mental, it becomes a mental health concern or issue, and like you said, it transitions to body dysmorphia and like knowing every reflection at your job, at your house, and all that.
That was an interesting point you said about avoiding certain stuff. So like if I'm not feeling good about myself today, I'm not going to walk down this certain hallway because there's a mirror there and I don't want to see myself. So I'm going to walk the long way around. Yeah. Like I never thought of that before, that people would go through that, not like they're trying to be obnoxious about it, but they're like they physically can't face it.
It's adding more anxiety to your life, and that's
I never considered that.
It flips back and forth too. And one of the things that also is always kind of a struggle for me to hear sometimes when I'm hearing about it as a therapist is when people won't even leave the house because they think that they look that disfigured, and then I think I really start to kind of like have that experience in the room with them where I'm like, no, we've got to get you back out there because that's not fair to you. So we've got to really work on this. So that to me, I think is really, really something that's, I guess, kind of upsetting to hear as a therapist. And then my motivation to sort of help them through that goes up, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah, I would assume it would be because I feel like it's almost, this might not be the right word, but like a challenge for you, for someone to like, when they present to you like, hey, yeah, I feel this way, I'm not even gonna leave my house, then I feel like it gets your like gears grinding, kind of like, all right, how am I gonna be able to tell them, like, because when I feel like when people who are, I'm currently in therapy, have you guys gone to therapy? Are you in therapy?
I have been to therapy. I'm not currently in therapy. I probably went for about 6 months a couple of years ago, and I found it extremely helpful. Yeah, to be honest, like prior to going to therapy, I kind of looked at it like, come on, like not everybody needs this. Is this really helping? Yeah. And then I went, and I'm on completely the other side of the fence now. I'm like, no, it's absolutely helpful. I recommend it to anyone who's having even problem, big or small, doesn't matter. Yeah. Like therapy's gonna help. Yeah,
I think everyone.
I think it's what you put into it is what you get out of it. So the more honest you are, and the more forthcoming you are, you're gonna fix your problems, So
I agree. I went in September of 2020 being like, I'm about to get married, so I kind of want to like try to get myself straight and ready, or like mentally prepared.
Try to weed out the crazy before.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. But no, like my parents split at a very young age, so I think that was my motivation to be like, I got to work really hard not to be that, because that's all I know. And then I haven't talked once about my marriage since being in there, because I'm uncovering why I am the way I am, like from a kid to the standpoint. Like, she breaks down everything to when I was like a little boy. She's made me write like letters to my younger self and all that, and it's like, what is happening? Like, I leave therapy, like I leave every session being like, fuck this, I hate this, but it helps me. It's helped me so much so far, because I'm able to, all the issues I have like with certain people and certain things, I've been able to kind of get closure on that. So it's like, okay, like there's no need, like my time stressing about that there's a solution to it now that I found an answer. It's all done. So I know you're a licensed therapist. Do you go to therapy yourself?
I'm not currently in therapy, but I have gone to therapy in the past as well. Yeah.
So as a patient or as a client, let's say, how was it being like, you are a therapist, but you see it in certain shows like Sopranos and other things, them going to therapy. How is, I guess, did going to therapy, do you think made you a better therapist?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I I think in some graduate school programs, actually, they have you, or it's a requirement to go to therapy. It wasn't in mine. I don't think it has to be for everybody, but I think it's always a good experience to gain some insight into yourself. And to answer the question of, is it strange to go to therapy as a therapist? I think you were getting at that.
Yeah.
It does kind of, when I've disclosed the fact that I'm a therapist, it does kind of feel a little bit strange in that moment. I'm like, so yeah, I know behind the scenes what it's like for you as a therapist, and because I'm also a therapist, so it's like a little bit strange.
Like, in the beginning, or do you let like a few sessions pass and then you kind of like drop it on them and they're like, oh shit, like, is it gonna test
She knows my tricks.
Yeah. She knows who I am.
It's like a magician trying to play another card trick on another magician. Not that I'm saying what you guys do is trickery or magic or anything, but you know.
No,
like we've been to the puppet show. Yep. We've seen the strings. We get it.
Yeah. I think they do ask typically like, "What do you do for work?" And then at that point, it's like, "Okay, well, actually," and then
that's pretty early on.
Yeah. I might not be smarter than this guy. I gotta be respectful now.
Yeah, no. But also on the other end, I've been a therapist treating other therapists, and so it's kind of like at that point, you also feel like you're on your toes. You're like, okay, this person also knows all. What
Are most of them your age, older?
So I see probably right now it's a little bit strange. I see a lot of kids and teens typically. Right now I think I'm seeing a lot of adults as well. So I think late teen years is for some reason that's always been like
your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I asked my therapist, I'd like to, I guess this is one bad thing about me. I like to know about everything. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like I asked my mom, like, why'd you guys split? And she's like, you're not ready yet. And then she eventually told me, but I asked my therapist, like,
this was last week.
Yeah. I asked my therapist, like, what's your clientele look like? I'm just interested. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I was like, how many guys are in there? She's like, oh, you're one of two. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, but the other kid's like 18, 19. I'm like, everyone else are late teens, early 20s, women. Mm-hmm. And she, but she says she's seeing a lot more like kids go, which is very interesting because I didn't go when I was a kid. Like my parents, my mom forced my sister and I to go, and then we were kind of like, this is bullshit. We don't want to go. And even doing this in September of 2020, I was like, I know myself. I'm gonna be able to figure this shit out. And I'm like, no way, not at all. Like I don't know how to operate now without going to therapy, if I'm being honest. So Damian, do you, as an actor, has anyone ever not casted you or judged you based on your looks? Like, and have they said that to you? Because it's happened to me before with certain things, with certain projects.
I definitely, I was never told it, but I'm fairly certain I have, only because I remember auditioning for a short film, and the main character had to be a certain body type, and I thought that I fit it. And then when I saw the guy they actually cast, I was like, never mind. I don't look like the way that guy does. So, and it was just supposed to be like, it had nothing to do with looks. It was just like a hulking size or like a muscle-bound jock or something like that. And compared to everyone else in that room that day, I was like, okay, I'm the biggest guy here. And, if I get the part, I have more time to work out and I can get bigger.
Yeah. You see it all the time in movies where they give you it. They give people time to gain or lose weight.
Exactly. Yeah. So
between their dieting and working out. So
yeah. So I mean, or maybe my acting just wasn't that good. Who knows? But I did feel that my size played a part in it. So that was like kind of like the easier side. I was like, okay, you weren't big enough. Yeah. I'd rather that than they say, oh no, you're too fat or you're too heavy.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever been told that. Like I said, I've definitely felt that and then that's the pressure walking in. Like, crap. What if I'm not, the better looking guy, or like, it depends on what the role requires,
No, I agree. For me, when I'm directing, I try to, on a casting call sheet, I say, height, race, and weight not required, because I want the best talent. A character is not, I don't need like how everyone wants the 90-pound blonde who's like 6'1", like, okay, gross. That might look nice. No, I'm just saying that might look nice, but can you act? Like, I'm trying to look for actor,
right, Yeah.
And I think that, we were talking about, and a few episodes ago, I was talking about with another artist about, like auditioning and like the fear of auditioning, and you kind of feel that same way. Like it can go in with this, because it's like, you see a lot of other people around you who like may look a certain way, but like, probably in your heart, like I could probably one of the better actors here. And then it hurts. And then it hurts when it's like, I feel like they were going based off of looks.
Yeah,
honestly.
I don't know if that's a vanity thing. It probably is, but I watch TV shows and movies constantly. And I'm saying, I am way better than that guy. Why is that guy? And even like, and again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but
I feel the same way if that helps you. I'm the same. I'm in the same vein of that. Yeah.
I remember watching a TV show with my dad, like in the last couple of years in Florida, and he was like, "You're way better than this guy." I was like, "Thank you." But I didn't preface it. He came out with it all on his own. Yeah. I was like,
well, he's probably been seeing you. Yeah.
Well, because like he hasn't seen me do a whole lot of stuff because he moved away to they moved away when I did like, the bulk of my work, but. He watches a lot of TV nowadays. He's retired. That's what he does.
Same with my dad. Yeah.
So he's got a good handle on, what shows he likes, why he likes them, and this and that. And he's like, "You've seen this new show?" I'm like, "No, Dad, I haven't watched that show." I don't have cable. He still watches cable. It's great. Yeah. I'm like, Dad, use my Netflix account. He's like, "What? I don't like the Netflix." So, but anyway, but yeah, that drives me nuts when I see, and I think the same thing. I'm like, come on, like they clearly cast that guy because he's got a full head of hair and rock hard abs. Like the guy couldn't act his way out of a paper bag.
I agree. Yeah, no, there's certain things that you see. I'm like, God damn, really? Like, what is it? Because I have a stomach instead of abs. That's, that is pretty much.
I've got
right.
a keg instead of a six pack, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But I gotta be honest though. There's a lot of actors that have started that way, and I have seen them improve immensely. Yeah. I'm like, wow, all right, that guy started out as not to name drop, but Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
When he first started acting, I thought he was terrible. Like, I was like, what is he even doing? Like, is it just because he's good looking, he gets all these movies? And I look at him now and I'm like, he's trying now.
Yeah.
And he's getting way better.
Yeah.
So now I'll actually watch a movie with him and expect a good performance.
Yeah, because he's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's hysterical, But I guess like you just got to get that director or that writer that believes in you and thinks they can get the performance out of you. But I think it was the movie he did, The Eagle. I think that was the first time I ever said like, wow, he's actually acting in this movie, But yeah, no. So a lot of them, they do get better. I think they have to out of necessity because they realize I can't just keep getting roles because I'm good looking. I have to actually produce good work. Otherwise people are going to stop hiring me.
And I think there's stereotypes, obviously, like for me, like I'm tall Italian, so everyone's like, "Oh, mobster."
Yeah,
you could play mobster. And it's like, okay, well, please give me something else because I swear to you, I could do something. I could do something better.
I had a guy at work forget my name, and he's looking. He's like, it's something Italian, Carmine. And I was like, Carmine, really? Like, do you know someone under the age of 60 named Carmine? Like,
I didn't even know that was Italian.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an Italian name right there. Yeah, but I found it funny. So now he calls me Carmine. I call him Uncle Carmine just to be obnoxious. But yeah, it's like, yeah.
That's pretty funny. Do you think? Because I've been asking this in almost every episode because I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Like I really do. And more so at times I hate it because of just how everyone like their persona on there. So do you think social media adds anxiety to body dysmorphia, body image? Just like maybe movies do. I think social media it's more. Honestly, with a lot of mental health issues, imposter syndrome, the pressure of making it, all of the things we've talked about throughout this podcast. But do you think where would social media play into that, if in your opinion?
Well, I think, again, back to the fact that I do see a lot of like teenagers, and I actually haven't reviewed research on this in a little bit, but from what I hear from them, it is really tough. And I think I had somebody talking about just people posting on social media and how, oh, I can't believe how good they look in that picture and I don't look as good. And so I think there's very much this natural tendency to compare yourself to what you see with other people. So it's how you look physically, but it's also things like, hey, all of my friends are over here doing this and I wasn't included. Why wasn't I included?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of, I think, like just depressed mood that comes out of social media, and then also pressure to portray yourself in a certain way and easier access to bullying. And there's, sometimes an obsession with, how many likes I get. And if I don't get a certain number of likes, then that means I'm going to take that picture down. So it's just a lot of pressure.
And that's I don't want to ask anyone's age. I graduated high school in 2006. Social media was not wasn't as prevalent as it was then.
I graduated in 2002.
Okay, so you would have been a senior when I was a freshman, essentially, and we lived in that area where I
have basically the same phone that I've had since high school, so I have almost zero
Yeah.
social media presence.
So we didn't have to deal with that. Like we didn't have to deal with that pressure of it. There were certain pressures, maybe.
I don't even think our phones could take pictures back then. I'm pretty sure
like that.
Most people had the Nokia phone where you could play Snake, and that was the greatest thing about it.
Yeah, I had a Samsung flip phone that could take pictures, but they were
awful.
Yeah, it's like taking a picture of Bigfoot. That's how blurry it is.
I get it. I'm very heavy and hairy. Thanks, man.
Likewise, man. I could be caught for that too. But no. So I don't think there was. I think there was a different type of pressure when we were in high school. Of I guess you'd have to see, you would be seeing all of this, play out in real time, as opposed to watching it, looking at it on social media.
Yeah.
When I remember Facebook came to be popular when I was just graduating high school, 2006.
Oh, I think I was mid college or almost done with college when Facebook was popular.
2007, 2008. Right, 2006 or 2007, because I graduated in 2006, so it was
it was introduced to just colleges when it first came out, right? I think that was 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
But it wasn't available to the masses. I had a profile that my friend set up with his college email address.
That's what it was at first.
But I never checked it because I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. I just wasn't, so I never even used it. And then once they started opening up to the general public and everyone, like parents and teachers and kids and doctors, and you didn't have to be a college student anymore to do it. That's when I got my own profile, and I still don't use it really much. But
it really went downhill when my grandmother was on it, and my parents are on it. It's really down now.
I used to make posts all the time for fun, and I posted a line from a movie, and it's from National Lampoon's Van Wilder, where Cal Penn says, "You have shown me a life I could only dream of while masturbating in my father's woodshed." And I just watched the movie, so it was fresh in my head. So I posted that because it's funny.
Damian.
I love that line. And
she's
but then
she's so embarrassed for
this is way
2009,
way before we met.
But still, she's traveling back 2009.
But,
embarrassed.
So I put movie quotes on there. Those are my posts
Me too.
all the time.
I look back on my memories and I'm
They're
quoting
all quotes.
Biggie. I'm quoting movies. I'm like, these need to be deleted.
There's The Edge right there. It's Anthony Hopkins. But anyway, so I posted that, and then I had done a show where I played an elf in a Christmas show, right? And all the little kids, there was 5 and 6-year-old kids in that show. So when I was off stage, I was kind of wrangling these kids. And this one little girl, her mother friended me on Facebook back then.
Yeah.
Fast forward to I quoted the masturbation quote. She commented, I was like, crap, I gotta watch what I say on here, because you forget how many people.
Was she upset with the quote, or
no? She made some kind of joke about it being oh God, I don't remember. It was just awkward though. I was I did not think of you reading this. Yep. I thought of my friends being like, oh my God, I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
So but I wore green tights in that show, so that was a body image thing. Oh, I remember this now. So I have a Christmas tree ornament made from that. It was my cast photo.
Yeah.
And it was made into an ornament, and they gave it to me as a present. It was hanging on my tree. And my mother came to visit for Christmas one year, and she saw it, and she's like, wow, you look so fat in that picture. And I was like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, that's...
so there we go. That. We bring it right back to body image.
We do, but it's interesting that I feel like some people who are close to you can really comment on your body image. But I also think it's... Not to call anyone out, but someone close to me, they are always commenting on my weight, but they have... I personally think I'm not going to diagnose them, but I think they have an eating disorder because they don't eat until dinner, and they're not hungry, and they're not.
They say they're not hungry.
They say they're not hungry, but they, and they're not really drinking a lot. They're not drinking water to even feel full. And I'm just like, well, why? And then they always wear baggier clothes. So I'm starting to add 2 and 2 together. Oh, so you're probably very ashamed of I'll wear a shirt that may be a little bit tight, and they'll feel free to be like, oh, that looks a little tight on you. It's like, I can tell because I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, but
yeah, I wear the same 5 shirts now because all my other ones don't fit anymore. But I'm gonna lose the weight, and that shirt's gonna look great on me when I get, So,
but yeah, no, but that's I think that's what I thought. Like more so, also, I was this specific person. I was like, oh, maybe they have body dysmorphia as well because they're just so fixated on how others look all the time.
It very well could be. Yeah. It could be a misery loves company thing. They might, or they might in their weird twisted way trying to help you not end up where they are or how they feel.
I mean, yeah, the person who's I've seen them go through severe health issues. So like that's kind of more like, okay, I'm not going to follow in your footsteps, but also there's a fine line between being comfortable with how you look versus like, I guess letting it really, like, I try to like not let it affect me as much. I know that I'm a bigger guy. Like I kind of owned up to like, oh, this is who I am. And like, if I want to look this way and like, it's fine. Even if it's going to be fine with me, then like, you got to live with that. But if you don't like how you look, you have to work. Like a lot of people don't think that in my opinion, So, but yeah, I've kind of like come to terms with like, okay, like I have to lose the weight myself. Like it's not going to just disappear, but I'm also not like ashamed of how I looked. But that took a long time to kind of like get over that. Do you see any people who have just not been able to get over like how, like, are there any people that you treat who are skinny, but still like, I need to lose those 5 more pounds to the point where they look unhealthy?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and what are your thoughts or like notes with them to like kind of get through to them to be like, no, like you don't need to be so skinny, if that makes sense. Like you don't have to like push yourself to where you look sickly almost. Yeah. You can't say it like that, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, and I think part of being a therapist is you really kind of meet the person where they're at. So you're very much going off of their values and what they want for their life. So this is kind of where, for example, we'll take something big like religion. Like I could, let's say I'm an atheist and I don't believe in God. I don't impose that belief on somebody else. If somebody else is like, I am, very strict Christian, I would be like, okay, that there are a lot of strengths with that. So let's explore your faith, your beliefs, and let's use that to help make you a healthier person. And so when you're a therapist, or in good therapy, you're not supposed to really impose your own beliefs on somebody else. What you're supposed to do is help them get to a healthier space. So if you have somebody who wants to lose the last 5 pounds and they think if I lose these 5 pounds, my life will just be better, then there are reasons why that's not a healthy way of looking at the world. And so you'd kind of go over with that person, well, how is this kind of obsession with losing the last 5 pounds or last 10 pounds or whatever, how is that really impacting you in a negative way? And so you sort of explore that with them based on all of their values. And so what I find a lot of the time is people are dead set on one thing in their life and they're not looking at all the other things that are important to them. So if we look at values, we might look at values in terms of, okay, maybe they're a creative person. So let's just say, because that's what we're talking about, they're into acting and they want to explore that. But they also haven't been going on any auditions because they haven't lost the last 5 to 10 pounds. So, okay, so how are you not living consistently with your values? Well, you're not actually going on auditions and you've been putting this off for like 6 months, a year because you haven't lost the last 5 pounds. So let's look at that distinction there between those two things.
What if you never lose that 5 pounds? You're never going to audition.
Right. And so a lot of it is about really helping people to, stop being so hyper-focused on one thing, or to just recognize that being hyper-focused on that one thing is hurting all these other areas of their life. And so I guess it's maybe kind of sort of a roundabout way of getting at that. But it is just very much meeting them where they're at and exploring their own values and what they want for their life.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it, obviously, because I don't ever think about it that way. And how you said it makes sense. Like how they're like not pushing down the values of like what you believe. Like you said, you're just trying to make them discover like, hey, this here's the big picture. And then you just said like, yeah, if you never lose the 5 pounds, you never audition. Is that something in their mind where they probably aren't losing because they're afraid to go and audition? That's a deeper thing too, as well, because I make 1,000 excuses as to why I can't oh, I can't audition because it's like it's last minute and I got to work. You know,
I don't want to take the train into
I don't
New
want to
York.
do that.
or-
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to. Everything is like self-tape now. Oh, well, I don't have the right lighting, the equipment. You know, there's always excuses to do it. In my opinion,
there's always a million reasons not to do something.
I have a question. It doesn't really. I'll try to lead it into body dysmorphia or negative body image, but I've been asking a lot of these actors. Method acting. I would love to hear. I want to hear your opinion on it because I will tell you what every actor has said so far.
I kind of.
And be honest. And
I'm sure it works for a lot of people, but
I love it. Everyone says it's bullshit. So I'm just letting you know.
Okay. I'm sure there's legitimate things. I'm not going to say I don't know if I've ever legitimately done it before, but there's merit, I'm sure, because there's so many famous actors that do it, and they're way better than I am, you know. But I just kind of laugh at it sometimes. Like, I'm not even going to bring up the famous Dustin Hoffman story, but just with the Marathon Man thing.
I never even heard of it.
Come on, you never heard this one?
I don't know.
So there's the scene in Marathon Man where Laurence Olivier is torturing him, and in order to get the mood right, Dustin Hoffman stayed awake for like 4 straight days or something like that.
Yeah, I never
to
heard
get in the right
this.
mindset, and they could only do the shot a few times because he kept passing out. And then Laurence Olivier kind of said, "Young man, why don't you just try acting?" And I was just like, and that kind of just like slapped the whole method thing right in the face. Like, there you go, one of the greatest actors of all time, just bitch slapped one of the other great actors by saying your method is ridiculous. Like, just pretend to be scared, you know. So, in minor ways, I've done it where I had to pretend like my arm was hurt. I wouldn't hurt my arm, but I would just not tie it down, but I don't know, like putting a rock in your shoe to make it look like you have a limp. Like, if that qualifies as method acting, okay, I've done stuff like that before. But I don't know.
I think there's a fine line of it. I think doing something like putting a rock in your shoe, yes, that is a method of acting.
Sure,
but you're not like playing a role where you're like a drunk asshole or something of that nature, and then you're like, I got to be like that off
all the
camera
time
at my house, like for the rest of the shoot.
I wouldn't be okay with that.
Can you imagine me coming home every day just in character for whatever movie or show I was doing?
No.
We'd be done in a heartbeat. And she'd be like,
that's So every actor I've asked on this podcast so far has said it's complete. Like, they said it a lot not meaner, but they said a lot more harsher than you did.
Wow, okay.
They were like, no, it's bullshit. Like, it is straight up bullshit. It's so funny hearing that, honestly. Have you ever worked with someone who went method and like had to like deal with that, or no?
No, that's not. I've dealt with people who had like social anxiety over auditions and things like that, but never that they
an
were
actor who was like full on method where you had like they had to go to therapy. Okay.
No, and I think that might be actually a little bit intimidating for me. I would be a little confused, but you know,
to who you're talking to, really,
yeah.
I actually worked with a guy. I did a play, and he was very method, and he was at the end of the show. He was crying, but he was crying so hard he didn't come out for bows one night because he was just backstage, just like broken. And I was like, "Good Lord!" Like, and I was I was fairly younger at the time, so I was probably like in my 21 area. I think I was 21. Pretty sure I was 21 at the time. And this guy was a little older. He was definitely more experienced, and he was a really good actor. He was. I enjoyed working with him. He taught me a thing or two, like to help me with my character. But just like that one night, I asked him, I was like, "Why is he crying like this?" He's like, "Oh no, he's very into it." And I was like, "Is it even worth it though?" Like, I mean, it was a community theater show, it wasn't? Actually, I mean, the way you. Wait. We did get paid. We actually got paid, so it was one of my first professional acting gigs, whatever. But I just certain things like I don't.
You're like, we're in a gymnasium right now.
No, it was legit theater, but but honestly, if I was doing a show in like a high school gymnasium, like I'm not saying I'm gonna phone it in, you know, I'm gonna be professional, but come on, I'm not gonna.
You're also not gonna be back. I'm not gonna
risk
like that guy.
I'm not gonna risk my health and my mental stability.
So would you think he was like? And this might sound stupid, but do you think him crying, he was like shedding the character away, or
he could have been? I mean, it was a. I'm not going to say what show it is. So I don't want him to think.
Of course,
he figures it out. But his character had to do something awful at the end of the play. So any normal person would have cried during that moment. But the fact that he just couldn't shut it off, I was like, You can't just stop. Like, turn it off. You know. Like,
yeah.
But so yeah, I've seen it done, and I don't subscribe to it.
Yeah.
You know? I think
from your profession, how unhealthy do you think it is for an actor?
Well, it's actually really powerful if you're visualizing something and acting in a certain way. You can make yourself legitimately feel those emotions, and then have the physiological reactions that come along with whatever emotion you're trying to bring about. I don't know. It depends on how quickly you can get them out of it. So if they're getting stuck in it, and if they can't seem to bring themselves out of it, if they go into the role not having a solid identity and not having like a solid support system, I would think all of those other factors would kind of be taken into account. I think it's on Netflix. It's that movie To the Bone. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
With what's that?
Keanu Reeves and
what's the actress's name?
Oh, is it Emma Roberts?
No.
She looks like her.
I think it's similar to that name, possibly. But anyway, the
very similar to
actress
that.
has a history of an eating disorder.
Lily Collins?
Yes. Okay. Not at all similar to that.
She's
I don't know why.
great.
Yeah. She's very good.
love her.
Is that the
Yeah.
movie where she has an eating disorder?
Yeah.
Yes.
Keanu Reeves is in that?
He
Yeah,
plays
he's
one of
the
the therapists, I
he's
think.
the psychiatrist, I believe. Yeah.
She's super underrated.
She is.
Yeah.
She's I don't watch Emily in Paris. I hear it's cheesy, but she's great in it.
Yeah.
And then she's in that To the Bone.
But Jen was explaining this to me about To the Bone, but go ahead.
So she has a history of anorexia, which isn't.
The actress
I
did?
believe so.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lily Collins had that?
I'm pretty sure everyone involved in that movie has
Yes.
had
Yeah.
experience with it, and they kind of made the movie to raise awareness.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
So-
know
so
that.
it-
it's-
Because she lost a
it's-
lot of weight for that.
She did.
She did. And so that was my issue with it, was that made me uncomfortable. So for an actress with a history of anorexia, and anorexia is different from body dysmorphic disorder. So this is an obsession with food, an obsession with, or more so like a very strong fear of gaining weight. And then that also looking at themselves and seeing themselves as typically more overweight than they actually are. So this is probably something that I think people are more familiar with. And when people think eating disorder, they think anorexia.
Yeah.
And so this would be a person who is typically very thin, and is restricting what they eat. So that's, I think, and I don't know for sure, so I don't want to be quoted on this because it might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure anorexia is the eating disorder that Lily Collins has a history with. And she portrayed an actress with anorexia, and she had to lose a whole lot of weight for the role. So that, I know that she had a therapist working with her, making sure she gained the weight back in a healthy way and lost the weight in a healthy way. That to me as a therapist just feels really uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to, say maybe that was a bad acting role for her to take on, but I really wonder if they could have taken like a shot of her and had that be a body double and or like a fake.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that,
You
where
just
she
felt
didn't
like
have to
there
lose the weight.
There was potential for her to go back into those old
very
habits.
very easily.
But if you look at it from an artist's standpoint, that was like a very brave thing she did. And I'm sure a lot of directors and producers would say, we want the authenticity. So
yeah, but at what cost?
But it's easier to how do I say this? Someone who has lived it is going to be more believable on screen as opposed to teaching someone about it. So I think Sylvester Stallone said it's easier to teach a boxer to act and put him in a boxing movie than to teach an actor to box and have the boxing look authentic. Which I was like, all right, respect. He basically said boxing is harder to learn than acting. So, but yeah, so it's more, if you want authenticity, which a lot of artists and filmmakers they do want, that's what they're going to go for. So it kind of made sense. I mean, again, I agree with you. That's so dangerous for her mental health.
Yeah.
If she's willing to, and they got a therapist there on staff to be like, hey, make sure you eat blah, 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 or this and that. And as soon as they yell cut, it's a wrap, we're going to McDonald's,
Right. And I think I think without a therapist, it would have been just so unethical for them to do anything like that. And granted, like Lily Collins has her own agency, so she can make whatever choices she makes about what she does. But that would have made me very uncomfortable as that therapist to consent to her losing that amount of weight. And then,
it's almost like being asked not to do your job or something.
Yeah. Like that do no harm that, medical doctors have, that Hippocratic Oath. It's like we have a similar type of thing with our ethical code, and so that would have made me personally very uncomfortable. But that's an example of like a contextual factor for that person, where if you have a previous history of an eating disorder and now you're playing somebody with an eating disorder and you're being asked to lose weight, and let's say you don't have that therapist, you don't have that support system, that's when I think that method acting is really dangerous. And so if you have an actor who doesn't have like solid friends, family, people to support them, if they already come into it with struggling with their identity and not really knowing exactly who they are, that to me would be just sort of the recipe for a disaster.
I think I don't want to speak for you. You've been acting a lot longer than I have. I've directed, and I started out directing and writing, and then excuse me, in the last like 7 to 8 years, I've really dove into it.
I've actually been starting to write more now too.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
I started off just acting, and so I'm like the opposite.
Yeah. No, I and I've never been to the point where, like, there's certain films I've done like that. I just did one recently in October. I produced and acted in, and the character is just obviously just has like a lot of like history of like. Just a lot of history, negative history. That was the character. So then I was able to, my stepdad had a massive stroke in September. I was able to use everything I was feeling about that for the character. And I'm not saying that is a certain method, but that helped me out a lot. But at the same time, I was a lot more, like after the first 2 shoot dates, I was a lot more like down. I could just tell, I was just like... Yeah. I was just very much down. So like I told my wife, like, we got to get out of it. Like, let's go do something to get like my mind out of it. And that's like the small, I wouldn't like, it could be method, but like when you have to, like, I'm not trying to make the comparison because Lily Collins suffering or dealing with, anorexia and then doing a movie about it, like that's a lot heavier. But I don't know. Have you ever like things going on in your life you've been able to transition to a role you're doing at simultaneously, but and has it helped or harmed? Like,
I've always been pretty good with separating my personal stuff from my professional stuff.
You've never used any
I've
of it,
definitely used it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say if I've ever had like a bad day, I can't remember a performance that was hindered by the fact that I had a bad day at work. That's one thing I like about acting is I like to
separate. I
get to be someone else for 2 hours or 5 hours or however long that shoot is, or if it's a play. I do a lot of live theater. So,
yeah. So that's like weeks and months at a time, right?
Sure. Yeah. But it's a form of therapy in a way, acting for me, because like I said, like not that I hate who I am, but I get to take a break from me for 2 hours. When I'm on stage, I'm playing a different character. So,
I don't think, you definitely don't.
I remember I did a show a couple years ago where a friend and coworker of mine had unfortunately committed suicide. And I found out about this on the day of a show was opening. It was either the day before or the day of, I forget. And I was sitting backstage in costume, ready to go on. And I thought I was masking it pretty well. But a good friend of mine was like, "You okay? Is everything?" I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I kept denying it. We did the whole show. And then when the show was over, that's when I pulled her aside and I was like, okay, full disclosure, my friend, killed himself. And she's like, I knew there was something wrong with you. And I was like, yeah. But I knew I don't feel like that performance was hindered by that at all. I don't think it showed on my face because it was a comedy. I was supposed to be lighthearted and funny and, so I think I have an ability to separate one from the other. I mean, it's going to come back. It's going to crash on me later.
At some point,
But you got to set it aside. You got to get the job done first.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's been, when anything serious goes on, I don't know about you specifically, like something really... hits home. It's been hard for just to create sometimes, so
you just don't feel like it sometimes.
Yeah. But you were able to kind of you took in that information, you processed it the way you did, you still did your job. And then afterwards you were like, okay, I can let the cat out the bag.
I mean, thankfully like that was the end of the show. So I only had to hold it in for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Sunday night I was like, okay, now I'm getting drunk.
Yeah, exactly. So. Who knows? How it would have been. So you said actors sometimes have a problem finding their identity, right? Mm-hmm. Do you Do you have that problem? Like, do you have not an identity crisis, but do you, because actors, we are being able, our sole like profession is like being somebody else. Like that's what we are, that's what we're kind of doing. So like, I feel like you're pretty comfortable in like, I'm Damian Gaeta. Like, this is me. Some actors are like, Tropic Thunder makes fun of it, like with Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, like that was great. Like
I really loved that aspect of that movie.
So did I. Yeah.
I mean, in no way, shape, or form have I ever suffered from that. Yeah. Or even if it's like, come on, seriously, dude.
Right, yeah. But that was a little bit too much.
It was. But they had to go big with it to point out.
Exactly.
You always got to go over the top with stuff like that. But no, I've never had to struggle with who I was. I've never. Am I more this character? I've never gone full Donnie Brasco before.
Okay, yeah.
But no.
Why do you think actors have those issues with like, who am I? The identity issues. I think artists personally wear like do you wear your heart on your sleeve? You think you're that? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
with everything, like not even just acting, like with everything, you're just over, like, are you over affectionate with stuff or just over emotional when you're watching something and it like hits you a different way?
Oh my God, I cry in a lot of movies I should not be crying in.
Yeah.
Like, Bad Boys 2 made me cry. Like, I swear to God, like, it's just like I'll get so invested in whatever movie I'm watching that if like there's a critical moment where you're supposed to be scared or upset, I'm scared or upset. I'm like, oh no, that's that. But it's a credit to the emotion of the actor. The music does it for me a lot. So I give a lot of credit to musicians who do film scores and stuff like that. Because I just watched a movie recently, The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp, and it was a very good movie. I like Roman Polanski's films. But the music in the movie, I was like, this sounds almost comical. This shouldn't be funny right now. This should be intense or suspenseful. So
music can make or break it for sure.
Music can take you out of it. But no, I definitely get... I wear my heart on my sleeve, I guess you could say. I get,
And why do you think artists do that, honestly? Like, if you could, I know it's a broad question, I apologize, but why do you think actors feel more, the typical answer might be like, oh, well, we all wear our heart on our sleeves. But, when you say actors have like identity crisis, what do you think it correlates to, being, I guess, hypersensitive or...
I think, for Damian, he wears his heart on his sleeve, but you're like, Damian, you're a very healthy person. Like, so there's no issue with your identity. Like, who you are.
I ate half a Stromboli last night. That's not very healthy. But...
Okay.
No,
but you know what I'm saying, yeah. So
I did a push-up last week, though. So
there you go. It does. It balances out.
If you even just look at salad, it might help too.
So I think,
ever eat a salad and then just stare at yourself in the mirror and go, okay, when's it gonna?
Oh, all the time.
When's it gonna take into effect? When's my stomach gonna be small? I had that salad last week and it hasn't worked yet.
I had an apple when I walked to my car. Like, isn't that enough?
Oh man!
I had an apple on the way to Cinnabon.
Gosh. So
sorry, go ahead.
Eating habits aside, but so I feel like you're definitely somebody with a very strong, sense of who you are. Some people don't have that strong sense of who they are, and I think it's
what plays into that, though. You think like
I think
outside forces or a mixture of everything, like.
I think it's a mixture of everything. I'm thinking of like a couple of different disorders where it's more likely to have that struggle with, who am I? But it also doesn't really even have to be any kind of disorder. It could just be sort of on a spectrum of some people have a really solid idea of, hey, this is me. And then other people sort of fall on any point in that spectrum, whether or not they have a disorder or that's just how they grew up. And I think sometimes it's experiences that we have when we're young, where, if you think of, young children, they go through these stages. Like I have a couple nephews now, but the one who I saw recently, he is 10 months old, and I think at this point he's developing an idea of like, okay, you are this person. Yeah. I think that
must be interesting to start like seeing and see them develop that at such a young age.
Yeah, and so I think earlier on though, like he didn't really know exactly the difference between him and other people. Like he was just like, food, sleep, like, diaper change, like he doesn't, there's just not a lot going on there. And and as we get older, we learn how to differentiate, like, oh, this is me and I like sports, or this is me and I'm a boy, I'm a girl. And so we slowly over time learn that identity development, and there are a bunch of different roadblocks that can come into play that make it harder And adolescence is a big stage where we really learn to develop our own values. So we separate from this is my family and this is what they think and this is me and this is what I think. And
which is very important.
Yeah.
The more life goes on, it's like you do not think how your parents think or your friends think. You really have to be your own person, because I feel like we're suffering a lot from that right now, in my opinion.
I would love to be more of my own person, but the scary thing is I'm thinking more and more like my dad now, and it really bothers me, you know? Like, I'll be in the garage and I'll be like, there's always shit in the way. And I'm channeling my dad. I'm like, oh my God, my dad used to say that about
and
me.
You're just saying it out loud. Right?
Yeah.
And no one
And
can
then
hear you. Or
I said another
okay.
one like recently. I think I said it to you, Jen. I was like, oh my God, my dad says that. Like, but
Oh yeah, no.
But it's legit though. It's not even like I'm not, he's 1,000% correct. You know? Like,
oh gosh.
Oh my God.
The one thing that scares me the most is like when I was younger, my parents were like, "You're gonna say and you're gonna think the same way. Trust me. When you have kids or when this happens," I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna be a lot cooler than you." And then you're like, "Fuck, like, God damn it!" Like my mom was right, and you never can tell them that they're right.
Well, I'm definitely still cooler than my dad because I have movie posters up in my own home.
Yeah, see,
and he says like, "It looks like a college dorm." I'm like, "No, it's framed, so it's art."
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, thank
Even
you.
the Last Samurai poster, that shit is.
Yeah. That one's actually getting moved somewhere else, but that's besides the point. Yeah. We're keeping it. I'm not getting rid of it.
No,
Can't get rid of that thing. No way, you know?
No, we're going to frame it though.
You know, I got that from my Blockbuster days. So.
Do you got a lot of these from Blockbuster or no?
The ones up, not
obviously not Creed.
No. That was from a movie theater though.
Nice.
But,
this is my favorite one. So this one, we did actually the Rocky run in Philly. And I forget the name of the artist, but the artist who
I do too. I feel so bad
I
because
know.
I love his work.
How long was the Rocky run? How many miles?
Well, she did the whole thing. I did the 5K.
Okay.
Because I'm not athletic, but
yeah, so they have something called the Italian Stallion Challenge, which it amounts to a half marathon. So yeah,
13 point something miles or
13.1.
And then you ended up on the stairs, right?
Well, we have a photo.
Yeah, we
near
went
the
to the
stairs.
stairs.
Oh, yeah,
You can't
yes,
go to Philly
obviously.
and not run up the
Yeah.
steps.
No,
Like,
but I didn't know if the Rocky run ended at the stairs.
Oh, it does. But you don't run up the stairs.
Oh,
Part
thank
of the
God,
race.
yeah.
The finish line is right in front of the
Yeah,
museum.
you'll probably be,
Yeah.
and then you need a break. Then you go up the stairs and do the whole.
Yeah. I mean, everybody does that daily in
One of the best
Philadelphia,
franchises ever, in my
It
opinion.
is. No, Rocky's
That
my favorite
leads
movie
into
of all
Creed.
time. Yeah.
Like, it's just so good.
Yeah, but we had gone. He did a director's cut of Rocky IV recently.
Yes.
and it was released in November for one night only in theaters. And
Did you see it?
I did. Yeah.
Where were they playing it?
There was a theater here in Burlington that actually played it, so it was only 10 minutes away, which is great.
Yeah.
You went. You both went.
We both went.
Yeah.
How was it?
I
was
loved
good,
it. I
yeah.
mean,
How much extra was
think
in the movie?
A lot. Oh my God, it's
Really?
a lot. It's like 40 minutes of. He like took out like 30 minutes worth of stuff and put in like 40. So the movie runs a little bit longer than the original cut. But certain scenes are like completely different. And they're long. It's not like a short like 2-minute thing. It's like a whole scene of dialogue. Like,
Did
wow,
they change like the look and the quality of it?
Yeah.
Like, does it look a lot more like in HD?
It is. They updated the sound was the best part for me. I couldn't believe how clear the sound was,
Yeah.
and the boxing scenes the scene was amazing. But a lot of the high def transfer worked well. I was very surprised that footage from 1987 or 86 when
Yeah.
they filmed that. But yeah, some of it looked really good.
Nice.
But I was all bummed out because there was no. I knew they made posters for the movie, but when we went to the theater, I was asking the workers there. I was like, "Hey, you guys get any posters for Rocky IV that I can like take home?" And they were like, "Sorry, we didn't get any promotional stuff for this." So I was all bummed out. And then the next day was Friday, the night before the Rocky run. We went to pick up our race day packets.
yeah.
And the artist of these posters was there signing copies. I was like, well, I don't have a job right now, but I'm going to spend a lot of money to buy artwork I can't afford. So I'm not even going to say how much I spent. It was like $250. But anyway.
No, it's
a nice
beautiful.
poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's signed.
Signed by the artist.
And
Yeah.
it's that's my favorite. I think that's my favorite Rocky. Like
The fourth one?
yeah, well, the second one and the fourth one.
Second one's my favorite by far.
Yeah, the fourth one. I think I always watched it. Like it was always on TV when I was younger, so I just grew accustomed to loving it, and like the montage in Russia.
Yep.
always inspires me.
I think that's the one that most people like. Is that the one he fights the Russian? Like, yes, that's my favorite. Like, that's everybody's favorite one. Is when he fights the Russian.
But I love Dolph Lundgren. Like, I think she can tell other stuff I've seen.
She can tell you. That he's one of my guilty pleasures. Like, I keep trying to get her to watch Dolph Lundgren movies, and she won't do it. So.
Well, you keep telling me that they're bad, so.
No, they're amazing.
Oh, fine.
Some of them aren't high quality.
Okay. But,
did you ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Or no?
Yeah.
I remember when like they did that crime fighting dog named like that Dolph Lundgren,
where he can smell crime.
That's so great. The funny thing is, I could see him doing into a movie like that, though.
Yeah.
So
I mean, geez, you look at those two guys, like the bodies on them.
Yeah.
Like that's when I was a kid, and I was like, I'm gonna look like that when I grow up. You know, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I got close probably in maybe like late high school, early college, or something like that, and then never again.
But even like I don't know if it would, because I liked you brought it back full circle. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
But no, like even like Sylvester Stallone is significantly shorter than him.
Oh yes.
I don't know, he had to stand on like apple boxes and stuff. So I wonder if stuff like that for like Sylvester Stallone, if he ever was like, fuck man, I'm short. Like I hate this shit. Like I always wonder like if actors really feel that way. Like because to hear, I'm sitting here like, oh, you know, good example, like one of my favorite actors, it's pretty generic, like Leonardo DiCaprio. So I really wonder if he sits there and be like, oh my God, I don't like how I look, because every time he does a performance, like the looks are like the last thing I'm paying attention to personally. It's always like his character is just so good. Like he's able to be like, oh, that's not Leonardo DiCaprio. Like you are that character. I would love to like work on a project where someone watches it like you guys and like, oh, that's not Chris Arrangio. That's his, you know, I feel like everything I watch, I'm like, oh, there's the goofy smile I do, or like, you know, I'm pointing out all like the things that like a real actor wouldn't do, but then like people are like, no, it seemed really like you were into the role. You know, I would love to get to that point.
I think the mark of a good actor is when people watch it and they forget it's you up there.
Yeah.
You know, like when I watch,
and you probably see that more in theater, right? Like you personally, or like even if you watch other community theaters, you're like, oh, I know that actor, but it doesn't even see him.
Because I'm going to see someone in that play, and I'm like, you forget it's them. Or even just when I watch Jamie Foxx was one of my favorite examples. I was watching Ray.
Oh yeah.
I literally forgot it was Jamie Foxx for a lot of that movie, and then finally at the end when he has like that flashback and the glasses come off in his eye, I was like, oh crap, it's Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Like, so I you know, a lot of credit there, but I think that's the mark of a good actor is when you forget who they are and you're like, no, that's Ray. It's Ray Charles. That's not Jamie Foxx.
One question I have here is why, and this is just the trend I've seen, why are overweight actors or actresses always the goofy characters?
I think fat is funny. I really do. And like, I'm not saying
a lot of people think that though. Like, Rebel Wilson, everyone's like, oh, she's lost all that weight, she's not funny. It's like you're correlating her comedy with her weight. Like,
I really don't want to believe it, but I think there's some merit to it, unfortunately. Like I think,
like look at Chris Farley, John Belushi.
Chris Farley is like one of my all-time favorite. Like, he's one of my heroes of comedy.
And he used his, you know, you think of physical comedy, you know, Jim Carrey, Michael Richards. Who else is another one? Chris Farley's another one. There's someone else too. Like they use their body. They use their body for their comedy, like Melissa McCarthy, you know. But it's always like, it seems like the bigger actresses are always like the goofy one.
I mean, look at Chris Pratt on Parks and Recreation. You know, he's one of the funniest characters in the show. And then in that last season, post Guardians, he was like 50 pounds lighter or something.
Yeah, he made a joke about it on the season.
Yeah, he did. But he was significantly less funny. And that could have been a writing thing. It could have been, I don't know, like just a situation thing. But I just felt like his character was way less funny in the last season or two, like after he lost that weight.
So I wonder why that, has it been just since the dawn of time it correlates with that? I'm not really sure. You know, I
mean, I definitely use self-deprecating humor a lot.
Same here. Well, yeah, I watch a lot of Seinfeld.
Got a lot to work with.
Yeah. So. Like, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
She's shaking her head. She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't like them jokes, but I think they're funny.
They are, but when they're done a lot, then I don't.
When they're done every day, and it becomes concerning.
I get all the jokes I need, and then I cry myself to sleep. What's the big deal?
Yeah, that's the big deal.
Is it interesting, like, you know, being in a relationship with an actor, like, and how they, like, he says he does a lot of self-deprecating jokes. I'm like that too, and my therapist has told me, like, it's just you're masking something. I'm like, no, they're just funny. And I won't come to terms with it. But does it really affect you? And do you tell them, like, hey, like, stop talking about it that way, or does he know like it's just is it just jokes?
Am I masking something? Like,
You do use humor. Like when we have serious conversations, there'll be, or when I'm upset in particular, there'll be like a couple moments and I'm in the middle of explaining something and then there's like a joke thrown in and I'll be like, Damian, I need you to be serious right now.
Yeah, but the comedian in me can't let it go.
Yeah.
Like when you have that opportunity to throw one in there, you gotta, Also it helps to break the tension.
So then it's a little bit compulsive, but then I like lose my train of thought and then I'm like, okay, now I'm upset and now I can't remember what I was saying. So it's just like,
I generally remember though. I bring you back to it, So
you try.
When I'm getting a verbal beating, I'm like, no, all right, no, you were in the middle of yelling at me, so let's go back to that. That's the penance for making that joke, though.
Yeah.
So it's a small price to pay.
So I think sometimes, there's this like, and I think from what I know of you too, like the role that you feel like you have a lot of the time is to kind of like take the tension or take like any sort of negative emotions and just like bring them down. You're kind of
Which
like,
is good. I feel like that's good.
Yeah, if you're in a room and it's high tension or whatever, and it shouldn't be, like crack a joke, even if it's inappropriate. Like break the tension, bring the mood back to where it should be.
How I met you was through Andrew Froning in the screening of Henchmen for Hire.
Yeah, that's right.
He always says, and I'm not just saying this because we're recording. He says he loves having like you and I on set because we know when to. He's like, you and Damian are so similar. Like you guys know when to say the joke on set at the right time. He's like, I personally think you need someone like that, even if it's like a PA. It just so happens to be, it's like, you're working with him. He's your actor, and I'll work with him, with certain things on like my projects. And like, he's like, it's good that it's like that you guys do that because sometimes the tension on set is just so like high and like palpable. You need that like little stupid ass comment from a movie or just a joke, and then it kind of breaks and it kind of like eases everyone out. So I think that's like what you were saying. He's able to do that. I think that's. I don't know. Yeah, I like that. I think you're able to do that, and if you're able to be that person on set or even in personal life, I think it kind of like it's good to break the tension because too much seriousness sometimes is. I know. If I know how you are, you're probably like, I can't, like, this is awkward. Let's like this. I got to make a joke,
Yeah, no, I'll always try and make a joke to break up the awkward tension somewhere. Yeah. And especially if I don't know anyone there, because if it goes bad, I can leave and I'll never got to see those people again, Or, someone.
You're just like, out. I'm out. I'm out of here. Yeah. I'm done.
So, but you got to try though. You can't just let it sit, with that awkward tension.
Nice, yeah.
People are less productive that way, I think.
I agree. Thank you guys again for coming on. I appreciate you coming on, Jen. It was a lot of fun. And
it was lots of fun, yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Once again, this is Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm host and producer of the podcast, Christopher Arangio. All episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. Once again, this is Chris Arangio, and thank you for supporting.